Well, g'day curd nerds. Welcome to Ask the Cheeseman, where I sit in the chair of cheesy wisdom and answer all of your home cheese making questions. So you're probably wondering why I'm not live today. Well, I am away from the office taking my son to some examinations that he has to do in the city. So I'm leaving early, and instead of disappointing you, I feel well and fit enough to have a go at answering some email questions. So let's get stuck into those email questions, shall we? So the first one is from, let's have a look. It's from Mark, and Mark asks, hello Gavin, would you provide advice please? I make mainly brie style cheese, mostly very successful, but my last batch ran off course. After the moulds were removed to my temperature and humidity control cabinet, the cheeses were fully covered in mould in 3 days flat, which isn't good. Why do you think this might have happened? Well, thanks for your question, Mark. A couple of reasons, I suppose. Temperature is always an issue when those cheeses are out of the cheese fridge. So whatever your ambient room temperature was when you were draining the cheese, if it was a bit higher, then of course the mould is going to grow faster. So that's one that I can think of. The only other thing I can think of is, did you have a different strain of Penicillium candidum, or did you add in some Geotrichum candidum as well? The Geo tends to prepare the surface of the cheese a lot better than just Penicillium candidum by itself, and the mould does grow a lot faster. I've certainly noticed that on my Bloomy Goat cheese, my Bloomy Goat Blue. The mould grew within 3 days, easy, and it was ready to eat by day 10. But that's not a fully ripened cheese in the style of brie or camembert. That was just a fresh goat cheese with a bloomy rind. So they're two factors that I would think would attribute to an early mould covering in your cheese. So thanks for asking your question, and hopefully that helped, Mark. Now the next question is from, let's have a look, is from Sumer. Sumer says, hi Gavin, I'm a silent watcher of your YouTube channel and loving all the cheesiness. I'm wondering if you're able to help me with a cheese making related problem. I love cream cheese, but the quality of what I make is inconsistent. I think I've nailed the ratios based on my ingredients. However, the finished cheese is either soft, wet, or too stiff, all based on levels of whey left in the cheese. Though I hang the cheese for the same length of time on each occasion, I get different results. I've tried to move and gently squeeze the cheese to release more whey. However, I need to be careful, otherwise too much whey is lost and the cheese won't spread. My aim is to be able to make cheese in a consistent quality / form. Any advice if possible? Well, Samir, yes, I think I've got a little bit. Now, you didn't mention anything about the milk. If you're using fresh milk, then there's your variable straight away. Depending on the season, how close to lactation the cow was, or how far from the start of lactation the cow was, then your cream cheese will vary in consistency depending on the type of food that the cow was eating, whether it's fresh grass or silage or oats or what have you. That is a big factor when determining the final result of the cheese. That's why a lot of cheese makers tend to use standardised milk, or they standardise the milk themselves and actually know what the milk fat content or the milk solids are of the cheese that they're making. So if milk is not your issue, if you're not using raw milk and you're using standardised milk from the supermarket, I can't really think of anything except for one thing that may do this, and that is the room temperature that the cheese is in when it's in the pot. If I remember rightly from my cream cheese recipe, you basically add a little bit you add your starter culture to get the lactic bacteria producing acid, and a little tiny bit of rennet. And you leave that overnight usually, and then it makes the cream cheese, it makes it go solid. Well, not completely solid, quite smooth. So even though you're sticking to the times, as you mentioned, same length of time, is the temperature exactly the same? That's the only other thing I can think of. But if your ambient overnight temperature is different, then the lactic bacteria will either produce faster or slower, depending on the temperature of the room that you're ripening the cheese in that initial 24-hour period. So that's the only advice I can give. Hopefully it's enough to get you on your way with your lovely cream cheese. So the third question is from Nathaniel. Nathaniel says, hi, hello Gavin, greetings from Wellington County, Ontario, Canada. I'm a newbie curd nerd. I've always been a cheeses freak though. I've always been a cheeses freak though. I'm repeating myself. I'm always interested in interesting cheeses from my local markets and forcing my friends to try them. So much fun and delicious. I enjoy your videos and they have inspired me to start making my own cheese. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I recently made gouda. Following your recipe step by step, it turned out amazing so far. I have it vacuum sealed in my cheese cave, brackets wine fridge. However, the fridge only cools to 15 Celsius. My question is 15 degrees Celsius cool enough to age my gouda successfully for 3 to 6 months? I'd love to make my Dutch mother proud. And he goes on to say, thank you for all the inspiration and the great work. Your Canadian friend, Nathaniel. No problems, Nathaniel. Now, let me think of a solution for this one. 15 degrees would be okay if you aged it shorter. So instead of 6 months, I'd only age for, say, 4 months. For 3 months, I'd try 2 months, because the higher the temperature, the more lactic bacteria activity there is going to be. Kind of a theme through this episode, isn't it? So at 15 degrees Celsius, then you will have a higher acid production as well, because the lactic bacteria are going to eat more lactose and therefore create more acid at a faster rate. So shorten those maturation times, and I think you'll have a very nice Dutch gouda. I hope that answers your question, Nathaniel. All right, the fourth question today is from Clare. And Clare says, hi Gavin, I've started making St. Marcelin cheese. For the moment, they are in a box to ripen for 48 hours at room temperature. My question is, the next step is these little cheeses have to ripen at 13 degrees, no problems with that. And are at 80% humidity in the ripening box with the lid on for 2 weeks. How do I make sure there is 80% humidity in the closed box? I'm so excited. Well, I'm excited for you too, Claire. The good thing about the ripening box is that with the lid on, it creates its own humid little environment. And I always use ripening boxes if I'm going to naturally ripen or mould ripen cheeses. Because they keep the moisture at about 80 to 90% relative humidity. I've had a hygrometer in one of the boxes, and that's the result I got with the bloomy cheese. With rind cheeses, natural rind cheeses, usually hovers at about 85% humidity with the lid on. So it's the moisture in the box that creates the humidity. And maybe you'd need to purchase a hygrometer and put it in the box as well, and then you'll be able to tell exactly how humid it is. But my results have varied between 80 to 90 for mould ripened cheeses, and that should be about right for your cheese. Hopefully that answers your question, and it's a good reason to use ripening boxes in your cheese cave instead of trying to bring the cheese cave's overall humidity up to an acceptable level to ripen cheese in. Okay, on with the next question. The final question is from John. Now, John asks, good morning from Greece, or Yasus to you, John. I'd like to make some questions. I want to ask some questions, Gavin, for the cultures. Here in Greece, they don't sell them at people, only in factories that produce cheese, and I have trouble finding them. He's got 3 questions. If I don't put cultures in, what will the result for the cheese? Will the taste be different? And will the maturation time be different? Well, John, if you can get your hands on raw milk, which shouldn't be too hard there in Greece, you don't need to add any starter cultures at all. The starter cultures will be naturally occurring in the raw milk. So what you need to do is you need to keep your milk for between 12 and 24 hours at 4 degrees from when it came out of the animal, the cow, the goat, or the ewe. And that's the ripening time. That will allow the lactic bacteria to convert enough lactose for the milk to be acidic enough for the ewe to then just add rennet to bring the milk up to temperature, and then add rennet. So the starter cultures are naturally occurring within the milk or the environment around you, and you won't have to add cultures to your cheese. Now, that's the only way you'll be able to do it if you can get your hands on raw milk. If you're using supermarket milk or anything like that, then unfortunately one of the other ways you can do it, if you can get your hands on it, is using kefir grains. Now, kefir grains have natural occurring mesophilic and thermophilic cultures within them as well, but they'll have a different taste and they may take longer to mature than what using a direct vat inoculated starter culture would be. So hopefully there's some suggestions. If you can get some hands on raw milk, then give that a go, and you shouldn't have too many problems there at all. It's better for the harder cheeses than the fresh cheeses, because if you need to and you're not sure about your raw milk's hygiene, then basically use the low temperature, long hold pasteurization process, which will kill off the bad bacteria but still leave some of the good bacteria left in your milk, and then just make it as per the recipe. But like I said, skip that part where you add the starter culture because the cultures will be in the milk already. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question, John, and sorts out your dilemma about not being able to buy cheese cultures or direct vat inoculated cultures there in Greece. And good luck with your cheese making. Okay, just a few final things for this episode. The patrons of the week are James Bryan and Joe Pietrianglio. Thanks for your support, gents. If you'd like to support the channel, then pop over to the link in the description. That helps me make new and interesting cheese making videos every week. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up, or follow us on Facebook. The links are also in the description below. Well, thanks for watching, Curd Nerds. Sorry it's not a live episode today, but it'll be live again next week. So, until next week, thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.